Well, hey, what is going on? And welcome to episode 21 of the Connect podcast. We have a lot of awesome things happening happening on the show today. I'm here with Matt Manning as usual, but we also have a special guest with us today. We have Reza. And Reza, I meant to ask you before, I don't want to butcher your last name. So how do you say your last name?
You wouldn't be the first. It's Zadeh.
Zadeh.
Like good night, but Zadeh.
Zadeh. So Reza Zadeh is, Reza, you have, I'm sure, many titles, but you oversee parts of Athletes in Action. You also have been the Broncos Chaplain for the last 4 years. And quick early question, what is the worst butchering of your name that you've ever heard?
Oh, bro. I don't know what the worst one is, but I remember, like, in elementary school, we'd have a substitute teacher. Like, once the substitute teacher, got, paused, I would just raise my hand and say, here.
That's how my wife is, too. My wife's name is Christiona, and it's spelled Cairistiona. And all the time, she gets Charistonia.
That's the way I would pronounce it if I read it.
Charistonia. Yeah, so all kinds of good stuff. And people are always, so what name do you actually go by? And she's like, Christiona. But that's cool, man. Reza, I'm so thankful that I know that you have a lot going on in your life, and just thankful that you're willing to come and chat with us for a little bit today. So thanks for being here, man.
You got it, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So, Reza, tell me a little bit about your story. I know very little bit about your background. I know that where are you from? How did you get to Colorado?
Yeah.
Tell me your life, the whole thing, in about 2 minutes.
I'll say the whole life in 2 minutes. Well, I was born in Iran. I'm full-blooded Iranian, and I was born in Iran in a tiny little town called Abadan, which is on the southern tip of Iran on the Persian Gulf. On the border of Iraq. My dad used to work for the Shah of Iran, his oil company, one of his oil companies. And so my dad got sent to work in Houston for a year. And so I was really young. I was about 2 or 3 years old at the time. And, I got sent to work in Houston. So I brought my mom and I with him. And then the revolution happened in Iran. And so we just stayed in the United States. And then my parents always intended to go back. And then the war with Iraq started. And when the war with Iraq started, obviously we lost everything because we were on a little border town on the border of Iran and Iraq. So I grew up in Southern California most of my life. I was an Iranian kid. Actually grew up Muslim. Did not know Jesus at all growing up. I knew him a little bit because Muslims know some stuff about Jesus. And so found my way up to Colorado State University playing football. So I played football for the Rams and played at CSU. And it was there where I met Jesus through this athletic ministry on campus called Athletes in Action. And cool. Just befriended some staff people, and they shared the gospel with me, and that's how I met the Lord.
Wow, that's awesome. What position did you play?
I was a linebacker.
Oh, man. I was going to have us guess.
Yeah, you're going to
Yeah. Linebacker.
That's what I would have guessed.
Yeah.
That's where I would have started.
Yeah, me too. Just kidding. I have no idea. I played football 1 year, like Pee-wee football. My mom was terrified that I was going to get crushed and die. And so I was the kid that had to wear the big neck thing, even though I wasn't a lineman. And so I was supposed to be a wide receiver, but I was wearing the big neck brace thing, and I couldn't even turn my head to, catch the ball. But our very last game, I remember I didn't really have a great coach either. He treated us like it was the NFL, like we got to win. And he was always pushing us and kind of being that hard-nosed coach, and for some reason this last game, he decided to put me in at safety. And I remember I loved playing safety, and I hit this guy really, really good. And I think it was halftime, and the coach said something like, "Man, I'm really proud of you guys today, and Jared, I think you have the hardest hit of the game, and I'm just so glad I was able to teach you something this year." And I was like, "What? What? You didn't teach me what?" And did you play football, Matt?
I was never allowed to. My mom wouldn't let us play football, and so when we were in the 3rd grade here in Colorado, my brother and I actually took her to the ice arena to show her hockey. And so she saw all these cute little kids, skating around the ice playing hockey. And so she allowed us to play hockey, never knowing that hockey is maybe more violent than football. But so that was how my career in hockey started, because I was not allowed to play football.
I did know that you liked hockey. And that's on my bucket list, is to play hockey on ice with Matt one day.
There we go. Practical living.
That's right. That sounds beautiful. So Reza, Athletes in Action. I know some about it. I'm sure that people are listening that have no idea of what Athletes in Action is. Can you just give us a little bit of an idea about what that is and what you do?
Absolutely. So when I became a believer, I was discipled, through Athletes in Action. We had a staff person on campus. And really, AIA, we are an international sports organization. We are under the umbrella of CRU, Campus Crusade for Christ, is our parent organization. So many people are familiar with Campus Crusade, worldwide missions organization of winning people to Christ, building them up, sending them out, win, build, send. And so Athletes in Action is a little slice of CRU, specifically reaching the world of sports. And so really our hope and dream is to see every athlete in every sport in every nation know someone who truly follows Jesus. So my role specifically, I serve here in Colorado as the Front Range Director. And so I oversee the ministry, campus ministry at Colorado State University, at CU, and a little bit at UNC, University of Northern Colorado, and work with athletes there and our staff that are at those campuses. And then for the last 4 years, been serving the Broncos as their team chaplain through Athletes in Action.
That's cool. So you've kind of come. Well, let me ask this: were you a part of Athletes in Action ever since you got saved, or were you away from it and then you came back?
Yeah, so I've always had my hand in it. So obviously when I was a student athlete, I was all in. I coached for a couple of years at CSU. I was 100% all in. And I thought I'd be a coach. I thought I'd be a Christian coach, and that's how I'd influence people. But I realized after 2 years of being a graduate assistant coach that, man, I really liked football, but it kind of got in the way of me really building relationships with the students. So actually out of coaching, I became a pastor. I was a pastor for 12 years. I was a college pastor for the first 8.5 years. And then after that, my wife and I, we planted a church in Windsor, Colorado. And so, pastored that for a few years, and then just realized the Lord was calling us to full-time staff as missionaries with Athletes in Action. So we resigned, raised our support for about a year, and now we serve as missionaries with AIA. But even when I was pastoring, I was always on affiliate staff with Athletes in Action, kind of always having my hand in athletic ministry.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know that, and Matt, you did sports in college too, didn't you?
No,
but our schools played each other.
They did.
I think that's really funny. So
I went to a small Christian school that didn't have the sports I played.
Yes, they didn't have a hockey team.
They didn't have a hockey team, no baseball.
Yeah. So I remember playing. I played soccer in college. That was my sport of choice, and it was a Bible college. And being taught to really hate these other schools didn't make sense to me. I really wrestled with that my junior year. Of man. These are people who are really going to school to try to do the same thing that I'm trying to do, and yet we're kind of going through this whole training of in the spirit of competitiveness to not like these other people, and there's, if people were good on the other team, you just didn't like them for different reasons. And so I'm just curious, Reza, do you ever encounter anything like that? Or how do you bring in the principles of man, we want to follow Jesus and share Jesus with others, and yet we still want to dominate and kick the pants off of the other team? How do you... Go ahead. Yeah.
That's a great point. We don't, the way that we talk, so we actually, that's one of our main principles. We have 5 main principles that we teach our athletes. And one of them is audience of one, all about idols, idolatry in sports. And sports has become an idol, and it gets in the way of worshiping God. I believe that a Christian athlete should be the hardest working athlete. I believe with all my heart that as a Christian, we have something higher to live for than even kicking the other team's butt. That's not what we...
No, that's it. That's all it is, Reza. It's just kicking the other team's butt. That's
dude, that's not what it's about. But what we talk about is there's an opportunity that with your intensity, you can actually bring glory to God, and you bring glory to God by your effort, by your integrity, by the way that you compete. And so we don't we don't compete, or we don't finish our workouts just because coach is watching us. We finish our workouts. We run that play hard. We give our intensity. Our intensity goes up only because we have the opportunity to live for the pleasure of our Holy Father. And so we have an opportunity to bring glory, honor, and praise to Him by our effort. And whatever happens on the scoreboard happens on the scoreboard. But that shouldn't change the way that we compete, because our competition, our worth comes from a different place.
Yeah. Yeah, we think about that I mean, that transcends everywhere, right? So whether that's in sports or in the way that we do our job, right? We're not just working hard when the boss is watching, but we're working with integrity in everything that we do. So that's really good. Do you have anything?
Yeah, I just had one other question for you, Reza. In terms of your conversion, what was it that brought you to believe in Jesus, from a Muslim background to trusting Jesus as your Savior?
Yeah, bro, it's a long story, but I would say in a nutshell, so the way I met the Lord was I was living in an apartment complex by campus one summer, and I was living there, me and my roommates, we were just looking to, hang out, go to the parties, hang out at the pool, go to summer school workouts. Going to be a great summer, doing all that as a college student. So that summer, when all these families started moving into the apartment complex as well, which totally freaked us out. We were like, dude, what's up with the families here? This is I don't know why the families are here. Right. Turns out every other year, Campus Crusade for Christ has their national staff conference in Fort Collins at Colorado State University. So there was 10,000 missionaries descended upon Fort Collins. And it just so happens, by God's providence, I'm in this apartment complex surrounded by people that all work with Athletes in Action, because they always live kind of in, places together. So for 8 weeks of that summer, man, I just got to observe, hang out, eat with, go to the pool with these people that was like, man, this is not what I thought Christians were like. So we got to know them for 8 weeks. They were in our home. We were in their home. We just got to know them. And then the night before the conference was over, the people we got closest with next door invited us over for dinner and said, hey, we'd love to tell you why we do what we do. And man, at that point, we were like, yeah, because I don't get it. You guys are fantastic. You're not what I thought Christians were. And so they literally handed us a 4 spiritual law booklet that Crew has used for decades. And they taught us God loves you and has a plan for your life. Man is sinful, separated from God. Jesus is God's only provision for man's sin, and that we can have eternity with God through faith in Jesus. So it started with relationship and hospitality, which is huge in Middle Eastern culture. Yeah. But they earned the right to speak into my life through 8 weeks of relationship.
That's good.
That's really cool. Pre all of that, you made the statement that's not what we thought Christians were like. So what is the general idea of what a Christian is like? Does that make sense? Before I was a Christian, it was like kumbaya. Like, that's what I thought. Like, these Christians are here. We're going to sing kumbaya in the dark. Light candles. Light candles, that's right. The only Christian I'd ever known to that point was Ned Flanders on Simpsons. Yeah. I had no concept. I didn't know good. Christian. I didn't know who a Christian was, That's all I knew. That's good. Well, cool, man. So then, with the Broncos Chaplaincy, is that something that comes through Athletes in Action as well, or is that how did that all transpire? Yeah, so Athletes in Action, our pro director is in contact with the NFL office and works pretty closely with some of the NFL, the player development people. And so it depends on every team, just does it differently. And there was a connection between the person who would oversee the chaplain and the Athletes in Action Pro Ministry Director nationwide. And so there was a conversation, there was an opening here. And so I just got a phone call from the person with the Broncos who oversees me and says, hey, I heard your name. Sounds good fit. Would you all be interested in this? And so we just started talking and realized that, it probably could be a good fit. And since that's where the Lord is leading us. And so we were volunteers. I'm a guest when I walk into that facility. You're making the big bucks, huh, Reza? Is that what you're saying? Making a ton, yeah. That's right. That's right. So, no, we have some great people that come alongside of us monthly and support our ministry so that we can do the things we do with college athletes, coaches, and pro athletes. Yeah, that's great, man. So with the Broncos, we can do specifically the Broncos if we want to, but I'm just curious if you had any really good stories about some of the ministry that you've been able to do. Let's go with that. Specifically with the Broncos, since you've been there the last 4 years, is there something that just really stands out? Like, man, those are just awesome.
Yeah, man. I guess there's a couple. I would say probably my first season doing Bible study. I remember we did it. It was early in the season. Might have been first week, second week, or something like that. And we were walking through the Sermon on the Mount during our team Bible study that season. And I remember we got to salt and light, and we were talking about being light. And one of the players was talking about how, we can be a little light, we can be a big light. Our light can shine a little, our light can shine a lot. It was actually amazing. It was awesome, insightful. And then one of the guys kind of raised his hand. I was about to pray it out at the end, and he's like, dude, I got to say something. I was like, yeah, go ahead. He goes, man, I'd never go to Bible study. He goes, I've never been to chapel, never go to Bible study. He said it was just on the schedule. So he's like, I just decided I better go to that. Because he was a rookie at the time. And so he came and he goes, I think I just need this in my life. I think I need Jesus in my life. So he became a believer, and so been discipling him. It's been an awesome journey with him. Probably my favorite day, though, was one of our players who really is, I'd call him one of our core disciples on the team. He asked if I would train him on how to disciple others. And so I said, dude, would you come CSU for a day with me as I meet with, athletes there? I think there'd be some football players obviously would want to meet you. So he said yes. So him and his wife came up on a day off during the season, which they get one day off. They get Tuesdays. And this guy got in the car and drove an hour north to spend a day with me on campus at CSU. And we just met with student athletes, and I'd go through the same discipleship curriculum. And so by the third hour, I was like, all right, dude, you're on. Like you watched me do it 2 times. And he did a fabulous job. So I think that was my favorite day, is blending the pro and the college.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome. Well, shifting gears just a little bit here, this is Super Bowl week. And so a couple of things that I want to do with Super Bowl week. And number one is, so you grew up in Texas and then California. Do you have maybe you can't say that because you're the Broncos chaplain, but outside of the Broncos, I did
not grow up in Texas.
Okay, you grew up in
I will
California.
not claim Texas.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I was born in Texas, and I don't claim it either, so I understand where you're coming from. But do you have a team? I know that as a Broncos fan, I'm in a really hard place this year where I'm going Kansas City or Tom Brady, and really wrestling through that. So, do you have?
Could there be a worse Super Bowl for Denver?
I don't know. It's bad. It's really bad.
Only if the Raiders made it.
That's right. Yeah. If Tom Brady was playing for the Raiders, I think that would make it one step further. Yeah. So, do you have a preference? How do you think it's going to turn out?
Man, I don't know, bro. You're putting me in a tough spot. Dude, Tom Brady he's unreal, dude. If you just look at him dude, I'm 43 years old and he's 43 years old. And I'm sitting at a desk right now and that guy's preparing for his 10th Super Bowl. Yeah. So I don't know, man. Then you got that Shaq Barrett, CSU Ram, former Denver Bronco. I guess, man, I gotta pull for Shaq.
Yeah. Yeah.
I went down that similar road, Reza. I was looking at it and thinking, when I was a kid, while I was always a Bronco fan, early 90s, the Buccaneers, there was something about them with their cool stadium and Mike Alstott and as their running back and all that. And so, yeah, in this toss-up of who's the worst of the 2 worsts, I think Tampa Bay is where it's at because of Shaq. Mm-hmm. Tom Brady is about to do something that nobody's ever done, right? 7 Super Bowls, that's going to be amazing.
Absolutely.
If he pulls that off. Maybe Patrick Mahomes gets there, but
that's why I want Tom Brady to win, is because anything we can do to slow down Mahomes, because my mom's family is all from Kansas, and so anytime Kansas City does anything good, we hear about it forever, and so I'm just trying to selfishly protect my social media page for a few months of being ridiculed, and really trying to protect us in the future, right? The long term. If Tom Brady can win this one, then that's one less that Patrick Mahomes wins. And man, the Broncos are in for a long. Because Mahomes is going to be here for a while, and so
a long 15 years.
We have a long road ahead as a Broncos fan. But I wanted to share with you guys as well just some really funny bets that I found. There's people bet on weird stuff, man, and these are some of the funny ones that I just wanted to share with you guys. And I wanted to, we're just gonna have a fun. We're not officially betting on anything. Maybe Matt and I might have a Chick-fil-A sandwich involved here somewhere, but when we go through them all, Matt, you can pick one, and you and I can bet a Chick-fil-A sandwich
Got
on
it.
it. But I just want to hear your guys' answers to how you fall on these bets, okay? So the first one is the iconic coin toss. Reza, are you going heads or tails?
I'll go heads.
Okay,
Yeah,
Matt?
tails never fails.
Tails never. All right, I'm going heads too. So we got 2 heads, 1 tails. All right, here's the next one. Will an animal appear on the field and birds don't count?
Bro, I remember a couple of years ago when Katy Perry came out on that tiger
Yeah,
when she sang that song.
yeah.
Yeah, dude. I thought that was shade against the Detroit Lions because they haven't been in the Super Bowl in a long time. I don't think there's going to be any animals.
No animals.
COVID. Too much COVID.
Too much COVID.
Too much, yeah, I don't think there's going to be any animals either.
Yeah,
Although
but what?
Reza brings up something really great with the halftime show. Maybe there might be a surprise.
That's true. There might be a surprise there.
I think no.
You don't think any random animals are going to escape onto the field?
No,
Yeah.
whales or anything.
Yeah, not that. Okay, here's a good one. Will Andy Reid coach in his Hawaiian shirt?
No.
Yes. No. You say no?
No, I think it's Kansas City gear all the way. It's
Kansas
that
City?
red. It's that red.
I've seen a Kansas City shirt though that has been turned into a Hawaiian shirt. So that's kind of the
We'll hold
flip
our
of
breath.
it. That's right. We'll hold breath. I'm going to say yes on that one. I think he comes out in some sort of Hawaiian shirt, even though it'll be decked out Kansas City. All right, this one's funny too. How many public Instagram posts will Patrick Mahomes' girlfriend post during the Super Bowl? I don't know if there's a plus or minus on that one. You're going with 2. Reza's going with 2.
I'm going 2.
Okay.
Oh man, I'm going 6. I think this is the bet.
This is the bet. This is the one.
Chick-fil-A sandwich bet. Yeah, I'm
You're
going
going
6.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to figure out how to track that because I don't follow any of that. So we'll
Hey,
figure
it's
it out.
fiance now though. It's not girlfriend. It's fiance.
Yeah,
Oh, fiance. That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Okay. Will an offensive or defensive lineman score a touchdown in this Super Bowl? Yes or no?
Nope.
Reza says no.
No way, man. This is
Matt
high
says
scoring
no.
offense.
Yeah, I think it's no as well. Will a player use a prop for a touchdown celebration and the football doesn't count?
No way, dude. It's COVID. They can't touch a thing.
They can't touch a thing?
Man, if Tyreek Hill gets in, I'm thinking yes.
You're thinking yes. He's going to sneak something out the back.
Yep.
What? Who was the one that was jumping into the barrel? Who did that a few years ago? Do you remember that?
Mm-mm.
Like he would score a touchdown and jump into a barrel?
I don't recall.
You don't recall? Ezekiel Elliott. I'm hearing from the other room. The God voice from above says Ezekiel Elliott would jump into the barrel. That was good. All right. This one is actually from last year, but I thought it was worth bringing up. So we can't actually bet on this one, Matt. But there was an over-under on how many tweets Trump would tweet during the Super Bowl. I thought that was a good one. And then back in Super Bowl 50, there was an over-under number on how many times Peyton Manning would yell Omaha. I thought that was worth mentioning as well. That was such a great thing. Just the Omaha in general.
Memory lane there.
That's right. Well, and people still use it, right? Like quarterbacks are still calling Omaha and stuff, which is awesome. So, well, there you go. Okay, is that the one that you picked, Matt? Is the
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes? You're going with what? 6?
Yeah, I think there's 6.
You said 2, right, Reza?
I think 2. One at the beginning of the game and one after the game is all I'm thinking.
I'll go with 3.
3?
Yeah, and we're doing Price is Right rules.
Okay.
Okay, is that fair?
Sure.
So I don't know how we do that.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. Okay. Do you want to play, Reza? We can get you a Chick-fil-A sandwich too.
Send you a gift card.
Bro, I'm in.
Yeah. All right.
I'm always good with Chick-fil-A.
All right. Cool. All right. So we got 2, 3, and 6.
I think it's 1 for every touchdown.
Oh, you think that's she's going to do 1 for every touchdown? That's. I think that there's some validity there. So, well, as we're getting close to wrapping up here, but Reza, I just wanted to ask you one more question, and this is a question that I think it pertains definitely. You have football players that make a lot of money, and some people feel okay about it, some people don't feel okay about it. But we just wanted to talk about how much money is too much money, and kind of get your opinion on that. You didn't buy any GameStop stocks this last week, did you?
Bro, we're missionaries, my man. No, I did not.
I didn't either. I didn't get that inside information. So, Matt, any GameStop? No. Okay, so we're all just as poor as we were 2 weeks ago. But that's okay. We live for other things, right? Not just money. So, well, I know a lot of times when people think
storing up treasures in heaven.
That's right. There you go, brother. So I know that a lot of times people look at salaries of football players and they get frustrated and they say that, man, they're only playing a game. Why do they make so much money? And you know probably better than anybody. I was talking with a buddy of mine who was saying the reality is though is the average length of a football career is actually very short, and they're beating up their bodies. That takes them out of possibilities of doing other work, right? I mean, we know the stars and how much they make, but that's really a small percentage in the overall scheme of things.
Very small percentage.
I was watching, I think it was on NFL Hard Knocks, that they had someone talking to one of the players about their finances and saying the NFL stood for not for long, and that's also a reality that not many players actually have a really. Tom Brady, how long he's been in the NFL is not the norm, right? And so I just wondered, man, is there? I doubt that there's a magic number that says, okay, as soon as you make this much, you're actually making too much money and it's ungodly. But maybe what we can even shift that is you can answer that question if you like, Reza, or you can talk a little bit about, man, for all of us, no matter how much money we're making, how do we handle our finances in a way that is beneficial to us and our family and our communities?
Yeah, bro, this is a great question. I think, when it comes to salaries in the NFL, yeah, of course, we look at it and we're like, oh my word, look at how much money, is happening there. When you talk about this, there's no amount. Like you said, there's not like an amount, but there's a couple things to keep in mind. We might see the number that comes out in public. We don't see the taxes taken out. We don't see the agents cut and all the other cuts that are getting taken out. Now, honestly, that's still a pretty good chunk of money that the players get. Couple of things. They're only paid during the season and when there's workouts. And so, that's 6 months out of the year. So there's a lot of variables in that. And I know a lot of us would say, man, I'd love to get paid for 6 months with that amount. But there's a lot of variables with it. And so that's what, when I think about this, they've got every mom, uncle, aunt, cousin, Pop Warner coach, high school teacher, calling them saying, hey, if it wasn't for me, you wouldn't be here. Can you please throw me some money? And so this and that. So there's a lot of those kinds of conversations that are really different. At the same time, there's a lot of people that are out to get, their money. I've gotten phone calls from agents, financial planners. When the guys are still in college, they call all the different chaplains, AIA directors, FCA directors, and they try to get the inside track on an athlete who's coming out in the draft. And they'll call them in college and say, hey, I want to work with you and do your finances when you leave. So there's a lot of swindling. There's a lot of sharks that are out there. But I think when it comes to the core of it, there's not a money amount. It's what Jesus said. When Jesus said, it's harder for a rich man to get into heaven than take the camel through an eye of a needle. When he said, the love of money is the root of all evil, he's not necessarily talking about the physical wealth. It's the heart condition. It's a spirit of mammon. It's what are you self-sufficient or are you God-sufficient? I've seen people with no money be very self-sufficient. And when you're self-sufficient, there's no room to be God-sufficient. And I've seen people with a lot of resources be 100% God-sufficient. And so I think it's, how do you steward it? What do you do with it? How are you investing it? And I know that there is a ton of believers in the NFL world that are a part of this community called PAO, Pro Athlete Outreach, the Increase Conference that gathers every year in February, where athletes come together and they talk about handling your finances God's way, amongst other things. And so, yeah, we can look at it from where we sit and say, man, there is a lot of money. And it's a good question. Why aren't we paying our teachers the money that they invest, with how they invest in our communities? Why are we not investing in law enforcement? Why are we not investing in different places that really care for the community? That's a great question, but right now, this is what drives how many tens of millions of people around the world are going to be watching this game on Sunday. Mm-hmm. That brings in a lot of money. So, sure. But when you look at it, these guys are always seen as commodities, and that's the unfortunate part. And so, while they can, it's good for them to, develop the resources that they can so they can take care of their families and help their families get out of situations that maybe they grew up in.
Yeah. I heard that's a good reason for Deshaun Watson to go to Miami is because Florida doesn't have state taxes.
There you go. Yeah, that's an interesting point that you make, Reza, is how they're always seen as commodities. And while the money may be really good in that, that's a hard place to live from an identity standpoint for very long.
Yeah.
Dude, it's terrible. I mean, think about it. The worst day in the NFL is draft day.
Yeah.
Because it's great for all those kids that are getting drafted. Fans love it. But put yourself in the shoes of a second-string quarterback or a second-string linebacker and watching your team draft somebody who's eventually going to take your spot and everyone's celebrating them on Twitter. Like, that's a lonely place to be.
Yeah.
And that's where we get to communicate the worth that they have is not in what they do. It's what Christ has done for them and who they are.
Yeah.
I think it's normal human characteristic to spend your means and even overspend your means no matter what the number is, right? So, I mean, someone who's making $60,000 a year, someone who's making $80,000 a year, they're both saying, man, if I could just make a little bit more, then I would be okay. It's really easy to point the finger and not take responsibility for yourself. And that's true like in anything, in any kind of relationship with anybody, right? The only person I can really control is me. And so making sure that, as a follower of Jesus, I'm making the right choices, based on what I'm called to do in my character and not worry necessarily so much maybe about how someone else is unless you have an opportunity to have influence. I think that you're in a position to have some really positive influence to help people not get into trouble. But you hear those sad stories too, right? About these famous football players who they get out of the NFL and they go broke and they end up having some sort of tragic ending because they just could never figure out almost that character piece unless of the money piece even.
Yeah. When I think of like material in this world, oftentimes my mind goes to Ephesians 4:28 that says, "Let the thief no longer steal, but rather let him labor, doing honest work with his own hands so that he may have something to share with anyone in need." And I don't know that there's like a number amount of how much materials, possessions is too much or too less or whatever it is. But I think this verse gives us kind of three ways to think about our material possessions. One is, don't steal it, right? Which pretty much everybody agrees, like that's not the right way to come into material means. But then there's the work for it piece of it. And then there's the kind of the third piece, which is work for it so that you have material to share with others. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really kind of the heart of it, where most of our society points us towards the work so that we have a lot of material. Like God's heart at the end is work so that you can share what you have with others in that space.
Mm-hmm. And that looks different for everybody.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's good. So, well, Reza, I really, really appreciate you giving some time to be here. I know you have some different things going on at home and things like that with little sick ones and things like that, and that's always an extra unplanned obstacle to overcome. And so thanks so much for giving us your time. We'll let you know how this bet turns out, and we'll follow up with you on that if we're able to give you that Chick-fil-A sandwich or not, But man, it's just so good to get to chat with you. We really appreciate you. We are always putting out new content. We have our YouTube channel, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, we have our weekend services. Check us out on the website. Man, thank you guys so much for being with us on the Connect podcast.
Thanks, Jared.